And some translators take this a step further and say, if you can't do any of this, offer to me your failure. And the point here is to include God in whatever we do, to share with him your secrets, your mistakes, your failure. Yogananda ji said about this particular passage in the Gita, he said, this is what he said about this passage in the Gita, this is what makes the precepts of the Gita so sweet, so sympathetic and useful in healing the manifold sicknesses of suffering humanity. The average person may be trapped in a web of restless thoughts, desires. And how can he obey this command of Krishna? Immerse your consciousness in me alone. Well, of course he can't. But there's something here for all of us. There are many classes in the great school of life. And even on our worst day, Krishna here promises us that there's a place for us in one of those classes. Immerse yourself in Krishna. That's perfection. That's the ultimate. But then Krishna offers so many alternatives depending on our ability. He wants us to do our best, but he doesn't demand perfection. Nor should we demand perfection of ourselves, nor of others. Success may mean perfection, but success can also mean progress towards that goal of perfection. That progress may take time, may take many small steps, many mistakes. In our garden here, every year we sort of try out new plants and discover if this one spot gets too much sun or not enough sun. And it's by trial and error that we learn these things, just as it's by trial and error we learn many lessons in life. And perfection in meditation is samadhi, it's immersion with Krishna. But progress for today in meditation might be resisting the pull to jump up and do something else when we have trouble concentrating. Perfection in Hatha Yoga might be the headstand, but progress in yoga is what Swamiji calls the most important yoga pose, to learn to stand on your own 2 feet, to take responsibility for your own self. And in human relations, we can't expect to have perfect harmony, but we can learn to listen and respect the other person. We take one small step today towards that goal and give God our failures. He's on our side. And he watches the heart. He watches our intentions, as Sri Krishna said, our every attempt. And everyone has failed. Saint Peter, the close disciple of Jesus, when Jesus was arrested, he said to Saint Peter, he said, before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you're going to deny that you ever knew me 3 times. And St. Peter said, I would never do that. And Christ said, but I forgive you for all of that. And as it turned out, Christ was arrested. Peter was so much in shock, so much afraid that he would be the next one to be arrested, that when someone in a crowd identified him, he said, no, I didn't know Christ. And throughout the night, this happened 3 times, and at the 3rd time, he started to hear the rooster crowing, and he realized how right Christ was. And likewise, Arjuna, such a great soul and ancient rishi, just could not bring himself to do on the battlefield what he knew that he needed to do. And thirdly, we're never alone. Yogananda Ji said he was writing to one disciple, and he said, I will never give up my job about you. I will not only ever forgive you, but ever lift you up, no matter how many times you fall. Keep unceasingly trying to conquer, not only while I invisibly help you, but also visibly through many here. And the more we work for God and work with God, all of those details of life that we used to worry about, somehow they get taken care of by themselves. They work themselves out. Many times a devotee offers up to God their desire to participate in one of our pilgrimages. Maybe it's an expensive trip to the US or to Israel. And by offering this up, somehow things work out. Likewise, one of our staff members going to the US for further training, somehow that, with that desire, that high intention, the visa comes through, the money comes through in unexpected ways. Swamiji, when I met him in 1971, he had just finished writing The Art and Science of Raja Yoga. And he had worked on it very hard for many months. And finally, he had written the book. And he told himself, I did this for Divine Mother. Now I'm going to celebrate with Divine Mother. And he decided to go to the seashore for a couple of days. And he had just enough money to go to a little hotel that he used to go to. But then when he arrived there, the hotel was full. And the only room that he found available was much more expensive. And but he booked it. He felt that he was guided to go there. And he said, I want to pay for it now. In his mind was the thought that he may not have the money if he paid for it the next morning. And the clerk said, no, don't pay for it. And so he said, and Swamiji insisted, and that he wanted to do it then. And the clerk said, no, don't pay for it at all. I'll just write you down in the books as a travel agent. And Swamiji said, but why? And the clerk said, I don't know. I just like the look of your face. The same evening, Swamiji goes to a restaurant and gets in a conversation with the owner. The owner refuses to accept payment for the meal. It's sort of like when we put ourselves in God's hands, He takes care of the details. And Master gives us his final promise. He says, do not become discouraged and tired, but ever be interested in working for Divine Mother, no matter if war, sickness, or death dance around you. A smooth life is not a victorious life, and I will give you lots of my good karma so you will get through. Oh.
In this particular week that we talk about Gita readings, and also Swami has put together this book, Rays of the One Light, where he puts Gita and Bible readings together. The Bible reading that corresponds with the Gita, the shloka that Keshava read, is sort of a difficult one. It's one that I'm not going to quote, but I'll tell you the gist of it, which is people who do evil do not want to come to the light. But people who do goodness and who are good, they come to the light, and, they love being in the light. And so if you look at this, sort of the meaning of it is also what we would expect is that evil attracts evil, evil sees evil, and goodness attracts light, light sees light. And as they each have their own attractive power at their different levels. There's a story that I heard that a disciple of Ananda Ma said to Ananda Ma, "Oh, I heard this wonderful quote that you can have a cave in darkness for 10,000 years and bring a candle into that cave, and that light fills the cave as if the darkness has never been." And Ananda Ma says, "Yes, many people have quoted that quote to me." She says, "But nobody talks about the stench of the cave after being in the darkness for 10,000 years." And so what that disciple took that to mean is that, yes, if you have been in darkness for many, many, many incarnations, there will be some self-effort involved of cleaning our past karma, cleaning our chakras, cleaning our bad habits, and there will be some sadhana and self-effort involved. And so we think of Swami had an experience with Yogananda ji, and Swami was in a particularly bad mood. He was in a mood. And he was in this sort of insecure mood where he didn't feel that Yogananda loved him. And he knew that Yogananda loved everybody else, and but he just doesn't love me. And so he was sent on an errand to bring a big bottle of water up to Yogananda ji's kitchen. And so he brought it up, and Yogananda was working, writing, and Swami made a lot of noise in the kitchen when he brought the bottle, just clanking around and clicking, because he wanted to get Yogananda's attention and get some engagement, some personal conversation. And, of course, Master knew everything and knew the mood that Swamiji was in, and just wasn't buying into it all, wasn't going to give him that ego balm. And so, Master didn't talk to him, and Swami, even more so, thought, look, he didn't even talk to me. I made all this noise. He knew I was there. And he was just getting himself into such a funk, and his energy was just going down and down. And so then he ended up going to his meditation room, and he prayed, and he just said, "Please help me get out of this darkness. Help me get out of this belief that my guru doesn't love me." So he prayed for help. "Master, help me understand." And then he chanted, and so already the prayer was lifting him up. Then the chant lifted him up. And then he started doing Kriya Yoga, and he got control of his energy, and he just gazed up at the spiritual eye and brought it up. And within about 5 or 10 minutes, his energy was completely lifted, and his consciousness was above this darkness. And suddenly he could see, oh, how terrible. How could I even be thinking that? That Master doesn't love me. And Master says that when you're in a mood, Satan gets a hold of you. And that he also said that Satan, it feeds you with insidious thoughts that bring you false reasoning. And so it's also what Master and Swamiji has always says, we cannot think ourselves out of negativity, because negativity has its own attracting power. And so probably many of you have been in those situations before where you're just in a problem, and all you can do is think about that problem and how am I going to solve this problem? And you're just looking at it from 17 different angles, and you're still just stuck moving around in the problems, but it seems so big. There's so much to do. There's not enough money. And, the problem is just getting bigger and bigger. And yet when we lift our consciousness up to a level of light and a level of prayer and goodness and faith, then suddenly that has its own attractive power. And we can also see that negativity really had no foundation. For example, we could say, I have all these problems, I have all these issues or character defects, and I could wallow around in them. I've been trying to get rid of them, I can't get rid of them, what to do? But then if we start giving to other people, if we start serving other people, if we start expanding our awareness and our reality gets bigger and our consciousness lifts up, and even as our awareness grows, we start to feel, wow, I feel one with all that is. I feel one with the divine. I feel one with God. And in that state where I'm feeling one with all that is and having empathy for all these souls, I may still have those issues, but they no longer matter to me because my reality has changed. My reality is now a greater reality. I'm living in a higher level, at a more attractive place. So faith has its own magnetic power too. We have to say, what do I believe in? You know, we have these teachings. From joy I came, for joy I live. In sacred joy I melt again. You know, do we believe that? I believe that. I may not live in joy all the time, but I believe I am moving towards being in bliss. I believe that when the gurus tell us that this is the direction we're headed, I believe them. And I believe that I come from God and I'll return from Him. So that faith has its own magnetic power. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that light we must cling to. And that faith has its own attractive power. And every time we turn to the light, we put ourselves in that attractive power. There's a story of Ram Prasad, that he was on his way to do his morning rituals. And on his way, he saw a beautiful woman. And the woman said, "Oh, Ram Prasad, please sing for me." And he said, "No, I'm on my way to do my rituals. I need to do my rituals. I'll do them on my way back if you'd like. I'll sing for you on my way back if you'd like." And so he went and did his rituals. And on his way back, she was no longer there. And he realized it was Divine Mother asking him to sing for her. I mean, of course, he wrote all these poems to Divine Mother, so he could have easily sang for her. And then he said, "Oh no, I lost my chance. I must go to Varanasi to sing to her, to Annapurna to sing to her." And so he was on his way to Varanasi, doing this tapasya of a road trip to get to Varanasi. And on his way, he sort of sank, exhausted by a river. And while he was there, Divine Mother came to him. Actually, a light came to him, and light came to him and said, "You don't have to go to Varanasi. You know, I'm everywhere. You can sing to me here." And so that light is everywhere, and we don't have to postpone turning to the light or chanting to the light, singing to the light. You know, the light is always there anytime we turn to it. And we think, well, no, I have a particular karma. You know, I have this particular karma and that's holding me down. And we do all have karma. We're born into karma. We have certain things we must go through, challenges that we're having. We not only have personal karma, we have group karma with our families, maybe, you know, our work group or our city we live in. And then we have, you know, mass karma, maybe the country that we live in, maybe a country that we live in gets invaded by another power. Maybe we go, you know, our country goes to war and we have mass karma. And sometimes that mass karma overrides personal karma. But somebody asked Swami that question, you know, if we have this fate, if we have this destiny that's written for us with our karma, how can we help ourselves? In every moment, he said, we have the choice of turning towards the light or turning towards the darkness. And, you know, every moment we can turn towards the light. You know, most people, out of their own ignorance, just keep themselves from the light. They just stay in problem consciousness, or from their own negativity or the negativity around them, the environment that they're in. or their indifference to God or to all matters of spirituality. And, we can overcome that. It's like these lessons that we learn again and again and again. I was telling some friends that, I have this karma of going through this particular lesson, and I thought I had overcome it. And I was feeling confident about overcoming them, and it hit me again recently, the same karma where I had this emotional outburst, actually, of anger. And I thought I was over that. And I saw very clearly that I wasn't. And, it kind of took me down a little bit. We have this perhaps optimistic belief that we are further along the path than we may be. And so it may take us down if we realize, no, I still have that work. I still am working on that problem. I still am not as far along as I wish I were. But that doesn't need to take us down. We can also look at it like, Divine Mother, thank you for showing me again that I still have this and I really need to work on it. So it's also, we can have, Divine Mother, I cannot do this without you. We can say, oh, this path is impossible. I'll never get rid of all my karma. I'll never get rid of all my vrittis. Or, Divine Mother, with your help, with your light, I can dissolve all these vrittis. I can come to you. You promised me I'll return to you. So we can turn towards the darkness, or we can turn towards the light. And every moment we have that choice, because everything is about consciousness. We tend to think everything's about our job or the traffic or the heat or the weather or the table that we're sitting on, because it seems so real. Our world seems so real, but everything is only consciousness. And so we can just say, is my consciousness moving into the light? Am I joining my consciousness to the magnetism of light, or am I letting it sink back down to the darkness from where I came, that cave that still stinks? I'm cleaning myself out. I'm using air freshener and incense and everything I can to clean myself out. Our good friend Naya Swami Krishnadas from Ananda Village, he told a story recently during his Sunday satsang of experience that he had when he had first come on the path, and he had fallen down and his head got knocked very, very hard, and he almost died. And as a classic example, he started going into the light. And as he went into that light, he just said this, he had never felt such love. And he said he felt the presence of God there, the presence of he said it was a male presence, like just an infinite loving presence that was there. And as he started to move to the light, he thought about all the mistakes he'd ever made and all, before he got onto the path, sort of all the bad things that he had done. And he said, I'm just not pure enough to go into this light. And he said the light spoke to him and just said, there's no judgment here. There's nothing to forgive. We don't even acknowledge that there was ever anything there. And what Krishnadas said is all the darkness was just obliterated in the light that was there. And so he felt suddenly he could move towards that light, but things happened and he came back. But that anything within us can just be dissolved in that light if we just put ourselves in the light. That's the effort that we need to make. We need to just put ourselves in the light and choose the light at all moments. So Swami and Yogananda ji told us every night, just offer yourself, all your problems, all the things that didn't go right, all your possessions, all your desires and attachments into the light. Just let them be purified in light every single night and free yourself. And just become, and then in the morning when you're meditating, at the end of your meditation, do it again. I offer everything to you. It's all yours. I am nothing. You're everything. Just take it from me, please. And this way, twice a day, you'll just be, everything that's darkness within you will be dissolving in that light. And we will all awaken that light one day, as our gurus have promised us. Namaste.